Alright guys, we have some Pale Rider today, again from Regalia. Thank you for the video. So Pale Rider is a flanker, but a medium range flanker, not like exactly a flanker like Zaku, Exia, or Barbatos. So you have to keep that in mind. You are trying to flank and you're trying to create an off angle pressure. What off angles are is if you look at the main angle that you just walk down main and you're shooting from that angle, anything on the side of it, on either side, is what would be considered an off angle. An off angle is something that's typically considered more about like 45 degrees off. Close enough where you can still get support from your team, but not so far that it's what you'd be calling more of a flank. Which would be more about, 90 degrees, like really, really, really far on the side of the enemy. So, Pale Rider is a flanker, and I guess really an off-angler, if you will. Although he does excel also at flanking because he's able to go further because of its healing capability to sustain itself on a flank. Whereas you don't need that on an off angle because you can get supported by your team. So, in this fight here, how is our Pale Rider player going to get good advantage out of doing that? There's not the best places, but playing on the right side of the map where he was at the beginning of the fight is pretty solid. You just have to keep in mind that there's a lot of areas on this map in particular where you don't have a lot of good sight lines. Running into a Barbatos is a little bit unlucky. Nothing really to be done about that. But you have to keep in mind, like, what are the sight lines like? If they're too close, then you're going to have issues of not being able to flank well as a mid-range character because you're just going to get pulled up on by something. So there's a lot of issues with that on this map, which is why this map is not the best for medium or long range characters. It's a lot better for close ones. To show my point really quick, this main angle right here, like right when you're here, this would be considered a main angle because you're staring down main. Yeah, anyway, but an angle on the left here, this is an off angle, and pushing in further when the enemy's close and trying to pull up and shoot them, like if they were on the right now, that'd be like, you're legitimately flanking. But anyway, so you do need to be careful on Pale Rider just using both your double dashes really at any time. You always want to at least have one so you can just get away if you need to. For speed purposes, sprinting is faster than dashing, like overall, for sure. I'm almost 100% certain. Yeah. Here you see the exit coming in from a flank. Our Pale Rider player just happened to look. And this is a really important concept for flanking in general, but also applies to just off angling. It applies really to splitting from your team. If you walk up as a group of 6 and you all walk up together and start applying damage, all of your value is occurring in one general time frame. Same thing really needs to happen when you're flanking. It's just harder because you have to pay more attention to where your teammate is. So right now, the enemy is not anywhere in the vicinity to be able to help. Now imagine if this Exia waits a little bit and the enemy Sosby pulls up too at the same time. Our Pale Rider player is dead, but it doesn't happen. They're way far in the back and they're not ready to take this fight. And so now Exia went and fed. I didn't think it died, but it should have died. And now the team is just waiting around, and they were in bad position in the first place. So yeah, with Hades, you can play really aggressively. You just have to be cautious about getting killed. Obviously, it doesn't give you any damage buffs. It doesn't give you any like sustain buffs. It makes you faster and it makes you do a lot more damage, so you can kill things better. But you can honestly frag with it. What I like to do is I like to get in a solid flank with it, throw it on a healing pad and pop it, and then just mow everybody down. Pale Rider's healing pad is actually really strong in this game, just because it heals like 800 HP, which is 80% of Pale Rider's HP. So it's actually quite a substantial amount. You can use it to basically tank damage if the damage sources aren't super high coming in. Yeah, so this is good. Like I said, on Pale Rider, you just want to be thinking constantly about, like, really on any character, could I be in a better position? And on Pale Rider here, the situation is revolved around, like, am I flanking well enough, or am I on a good enough off angle? here's pretty good. The value of off angles is that the enemy can hide themselves from you if you're on the same angle. So if you're all standing down main, you can't see the person in the top right of the corner hiding behind that. But if they're hiding behind it, avoiding the main angle, a Pale Rider player playing on the left here can shoot and can see them and shoot them. So that is what it does. That is what angle control is. Games like Call of Duty, Overwatch in long damage spam based metas, CSGO, Valorant even is all about angle control and retaking angles. It's just in a game like this, you have tanks that are supposed to help you do that, and sustain based characters to help you do that. A res like that, you're never going to get off. Just don't even bother going for it. And our Pale Rider player should have dashed away from the Exia. Exia does a lot of damage when ults. So just dip. There's times to frag out and there's times to make sure you live. Unless you're going to get huge value for your death, you want to value your life over kills. Especially in a game like this where the enemy can resurrect them. So if you're just running in and feeding and getting a kill, but they res it, you're doing nothing. So consistently taking the high ground is good because high ground is another angle in and of itself. So if you're on a high ground, you're essentially just inherently off angling. And it gives you the opportunity to drop down to get another angle and to escape anybody that tries to get to you. And it also forces people to use a cooldown to get up to you. So it's really, really valuable to do that. So our Pale Rider player notices that the timer is ticking down for that section. So he moves on to the next one, which is really good. I would have liked to see it a little bit earlier too, to be honest, but you just have to not let yourself fixate too much on just getting kills, because a lot of times the kills aren't valuable and it's time to move on to the next area. I talk about that a lot, but probably a lot of people don't really know that still. Just don't worry about the point that you're on when it's over, or when it's close to being over, just move on to the next one. So, yeah. And see, the thing about off-angling also, which I'm talking a lot about because Pale Rider is literally all about off-angling and flanking, is if you're standing right here and there's somebody to your left and right, your teammates, which are all playing on the same angle, there's going to be plenty of times where they're going to shoot, the enemies are going to shoot at you or your teammates, and they're going to hit you instead. So being near your teammates essentially just inherently makes you more vulnerable to just taking random damage. And you obviously don't want to do that. So you have to avoid that by playing on an off angle. And that's basically how choke points work too, because damage is getting funneled straight into it. So we're in an overtime situation. Things are getting serious. Obviously you got to run back as fast as possible. But you don't want to like feed. People don't really know this, but you can do a lot more in overtime situations than it seems like. There's oftentimes you can do things like have a player drop onto the point, have a player drop off of the point, like ping ponging off to get healed up to go back on it, that sort of thing. You don't always have to be on the point. If you're playing a damage character or a support character, you don't need to be on the point unless your tanks are dead. If they are dead, then yeah, it's probably your job to get on. Or if they're just walking off, whatever. Sometimes you have to take one for the team. But in a lot of other circumstances, you're going to get a lot more value from setting up in a better position. And this is true if you're on attack or defense, or you're attacking or defending the objective, like in this situation where we're attacking. So yeah, also side note, Pale Rider's repair pod can be broken. So tossing it behind cover like this is really smart. They're gonna have to int to get the healing pod, so it's at a safe position. And here you can see here, our Pale Rider player is poking out the people on the right side first. Choose to go for the Sosby because they run away. But this is what I mean when like angle control. Because they had someone main and someone on the right side, it was hard for our team to press forward from one angle because they have two angle advantage on us. And so our Pale Rider player chooses to focus out the angle on the right side, which is the least secure one, and ends up killing it. So now that our Pale Rider player, and after that, should have pushed into that space. But he was probably worried about the point, which is understandable, because I believe the enemy had it at the time. Also, you really need to be careful about shooting things while they're downed. A lot of times you just don't need to do it. While yes, it's good to finish off kills, a lot of the times your damage needs, like when somebody gets down in a situation like this, there's a very small chance they're going to get rezzed. And a much more valuable thing to do is just pump damage into the enemies who are alive and capable of damaging you, instead of worrying about like trying to finish off the target like that. Like as soon as that Dom Trooper gets down right there, just move on and move next target. The damage that our Pale Rider player put into the downed Dom Trooper right there could have done about 60% of another character's HP if he just clicked on him. So yeah, guys, I talked a lot about flanking, and it probably seems like, Denmir, shut up, bro. Stop talking about flanking. But it's literally the most important concept to understand in shooter games, particularly if you are the damage characters. If you're a tank character, you need to understand how to relieve those off angles and how to protect your team from them and in them and stop them from progressing on you. If you're a damage character, you need to know how to do them. You need to always be looking for them. You will climb so much higher by flanking. It's not just this, I'm going to go run off by myself and try and kill something. It's literally how you win these games. 3-angle is the ideal situation where you have your core in the middle, and then you have a very self-sufficient flanker on one side, and then you have another flanker on the other side that is probably not quite as self-sufficient, but is still able to provide good damage from that other angle. And you basically just pressure enemies out through that. And anywhere they stand, they can get targeted and killed. So it's really, really important to learn that concept. So make sure you guys are trying that when the game is finally released, or any other games you're playing right now. If you want some more Pale Rider information, check out my Pale Rider guide right here. It talks about the abilities, how to play the character, when to play it, and what the strengths and weaknesses are. It's a really good video. I made it nice and concise and quick. Thanks, guys.